Hello, Jim. How's it going?
Avery, good to see you in post Super Bowl week. How are you feeling?
I am feeling like this was the best Super Bowl ever. I think the energy at Vayner is still at an all-time high coming off of this weekend. But what'd you think?
It was great. It was fantastic. Obviously, broke all kinds of records, which we'll talk about. I'm a Philadelphia fan. I grew up about 50 miles from Philadelphia. My family's still reeling. They're at the parade this
Oh,
week. So,
wow. Yes.
so, but I love KC too. So this is it was two wonderful organizations, two wonderful teams meeting. Can't be any better. Were you at the Super Bowl itself?
I was there, but I came back for the war room. At Vayner, we did war rooms for I think 15 different brands or something crazy like that. So that we have a lot of excitement there. But New Orleans also felt very electric. Just all the energy on the ground, all the brands, all the cool activations and experiences that were happening. So I was there till Sunday morning.
Fantastic. Good for you.
Yeah.
This will be a quieter weekend coming up, right? Valentine's Day, all of this good stuff.
Exactly. I hope so. So I know we have a returning guest to share a little bit about her marketing strategy. Let's bring up Laura from the Kansas City Chiefs. Laura, you've been on Marketing for the Now and the CMO podcast before, but we would love to, have you introduce yourself to our community and share a little bit about what you thought of this year's game.
Thanks, Avery. Thanks, Jim, for having me again. I am Laura Krug. I am the Chief Media and Marketing Officer of the Kansas City Chiefs, and happy to be back. And congratulations, Jim and the Philadelphia Eagles for their win on Sunday. It's a wonderful organization, and happy to see that success for them.
Have you talked to Jen Kavanaugh at the Eagles, the CMO at the Eagles this week?
I have not. I've given her a moment, but I will say I actually ran into her on the street on Saturday night before the game and had given her a big hug. She's a dear friend, and they have a wonderful organization. So certainly happy for their success.
You can't win them all, to be fair.
You could, but we didn't. But no, it was regardless of that outcome, which was obviously tough and not the ending we wanted. We are so proud of what the team did all season long in our season, and certainly on the field, but off the field too. We've had some big success, and the world keeps turning, and we look forward to next season.
Well, I have to say, I lived part of the time in Cincinnati. You went to Miami University of Ohio.
I did, yes.
Which is on the outskirts of Cincinnati, 35, 40 miles away.
Yeah.
Were you ever a Bengals fan, having spent time in Miami?
I wasn't. I was never a Bengals fan. And in the secret, I don't know if it's a secret anymore, but I didn't actually even grow up an NFL fan.
Oh.
I grew up on the East Coast in Connecticut. NFL wasn't a big part of our, we had watched on Thanksgiving. But it wasn't until I went to Miami, and actually my husband's from Kansas City. So I became a Chiefs fan early on, and obviously now it's Chiefs Kingdom through and through, down to my kids. But I mean, there's just so many great organizations throughout this country. It's fun to watch them all.
So how did your husband and kids spend the game?
We spent it together. They actually, for the first time, I've been with the organization. This was my fourth season.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very grateful to have gotten to go to so many Super Bowls in my very short time. And just with the historic nature of us going back for a third year in a row, we felt like this was one. So I got to bring my kids this year, and I brought my mom as well. So the five of us got to watch it surrounded by Eagles fans, which was
sorry about that.
No, that's all right. There are a lot of Chiefs fans there too. But yeah, it was awesome. My kids are 6 and 7, and I think you really see the power of sport. The power of the entertainment, is just to have them to see it through their eyes was pretty remarkable. And I think to try to teach them the sportsmanship angle, right, which I think is such a big part of what sports and culture and marketing is to try to find that joy in it all. So we got to watch it together this year, which was nice.
Kids that age have no filter, right? So any great quotes from them? This experience?
No filter. There was a question of like, why is that fan booing at me?
Okay.
Which was hard to explain. But no, and a lot of questions in a cool way around Kendrick Lamar in the halftime show. It was really, again, really cool to watch it through their eyes. And then just the spectacle of it all. I think what the NFL has done in terms of the commercialization of this moment. What is it? The 126 million, right? The largest viewed Super Bowl ever. It's remarkable to be on the inside, and then it's remarkable to see it kind of from an outside perspective through my kids' eyes. It certainly, I think, kind of the world stops during those, let's call it 3.5 hours on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah. I tuned in like 2 hours in advance. I thought I should have tuned in 3 hours in advance. All the pregame stuff was so well done.
So well done. And it's fun, you don't get to watch the Super Bowl commercials when you're in the Super Bowl, which I will take if we can be in the Super Bowl every year. But they have started to show a couple during the game. So it was fun to watch from afar. And having been at Anheuser-Busch for many years, love seeing their spots and so many others that I know did really well this year.
Well, here's trivia. AB InBev was the biggest spender this year, spending about $45 million in that game. So they believe in it.
Yeah. I think there are so few things, and probably really the only thing left that you can get that type of somewhat uninterrupted attention. It's an interesting one being on the club side now. We don't obviously run Super Bowl ads. When we can play in the Super Bowl. But we've certainly shifted our strategy during even the playoffs run to try to capitalize on that audience. It's so diverse. It's so engaged. You really get, the avid fans, the casual fans, and obviously everything that's happened over the last couple of years. So credit to Anheuser-Busch and so many other that still see the power of it. And I think really making sure that the creativity and hopefully the effectiveness works during that time.
Yeah, I think it does. Well, listen, I don't want to get too far into this show before talking about your year. And it was just another fabulous year on all levels, on the field and off the field. So much of the innovation you brought to off the field. I was looking at your LinkedIn posts, and you did one recently, I don't know, a day or two ago. And it's, by the way, for everyone, read it. It's a beautiful post that you wrote after the game. And you end it with this quote, and I want to share it, and I want to get you to tell us more about it. This is your ending of the post. The last game wasn't the ending we wanted, but it wasn't the end. In fact, it just might be the beginning of the next chapter. I love that thought. Say more about your feelings behind that and what you meant by that.
Yeah. Thank you. Working in sports, which is, not new for me anymore now being in my fourth season, but certainly new in the long part of my career. It's an interesting concept because we can't actually do anything once the game starts, right? You have no control. And that's a lot of life, I guess. But genuinely what I said and what you just recited is true. The game itself and the season itself might have ended not how we wanted. But what last year gave to us in terms of the brand and the business side was unbelievable. We've been on this quest, both internally and now externally, on wanting to become the world's team. It's a big, audacious dream and idea that we know we're still in the early days of, but we feel like there's a lot of proof points that are happening, ingredients that we think we can get there. Our international kind of expansion with our rates continue. We were able to create a Hallmark movie this year, which has never been done. And it came from a playoffs brand idea, right? Which, so well, it's very rare that a branded content can become something truly entertainment and commercialized at scale. We got to play on Netflix, the first time ever that I always think of this idea that literally kids and families all over the world on Christmas Day all turned on the same channel at the same time, right? Based on time zone, and watched our team play and win. And then we were able to launch our first ever Foolish Club Studios, an entertainment studio, which we are incredibly excited about. There's so much to come. So the comment of, I think this might be the next chapter. There'll be a lot more there where we start entering in the scripted and non-scripted world within football, but certainly way beyond that.
You're the first CMO of the Kansas City Chiefs, and you've been there since 2021, which you said. Could you talk just briefly about, this has been an amazing run for you and the team. You've started so many new things. What has it been about your leadership and also this culture that was so open to thinking about things differently? All the things you just rattled off weren't there 4 years ago.
Yeah. I think it really starts with the Hunts, right? And Clark Hunt, our chairman and CEO, and taking the legacy from his father, Lamar Hunt, who was a visionary, who was innovative, who built the concept of the Kansas City Chiefs and everything around it on entertaining fans. And then with the leadership of Mark Donovan, our president, who I report into, when I joined 4 years ago as the first CMO, it was with the idea of what can we do more of? And I think everyone believed and still believes that there's this constant pursuit, and as I said, of greatness. And it really is within the culture here. I think we're small, we're mighty, right? We're a small family-owned business, if you think about it from that lens. And so there are a lot of ideas that we've been able to build on and build with that I think maybe some organizations would not be as open about it, or maybe there'd be so much bureaucracy that you know what I mean, you weren't able to get it through. But I think it's really a mentality. And then I'm surrounded by an amazing team on my team and then the rest of the organization. And I've been nothing but empowered since day one to build the business case, sell in the belief, and then go with a certain amount of risk. And we've that risk has paid off in multiple ways so far.
Now, you worked at AB InBev for several years. You worked at L'Oreal, I think, before
Yep,
that.
yep.
You worked at 2 giant companies, consumer companies. How is working here most different?
I think one of it is what you've just said, the ability to move with a sense of speed, right? Just because the scale is just as big if you think about it in terms of our reach and universe, but the structure is obviously a bit smaller. And then I would say it's really the difference of the product, right? We have an intangible product. It's not beer, it's not mascara, it's not hair care. And it really is entertainment and media and experiences. And so that's probably been the biggest shift and change for me is having the ability and unlock to reimagine what sport and culture look like when you're not tied to probably some more of the traditional kind of brand elements that you see at other CPG companies.
Yep. Okay. Well, Laura, this has been a wonderful kickoff to the Super Bowl Roundtable. We're now going to bring in, the way we're going to run this today, we're going to bring in 5 CMOs who had spots in the game, and then we're going to bring in 5 different CMOs who've had spots in the game, and we're going to just chat about things, and then we'll wrap it up at the end. So please stay with us if you can. We'd
Absolutely.
love your participation.
Thank you for having me.
Oh,
congratulations to all of the brands for their Super Bowl success.
It was incredible, and it was well. Let's bring the 5 in, and then I'll get us started with a conversation. And Laura, feel free to jump in if you have anything you want to ask the group as we go around the roundtable. Look at this roundtable. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the 6th Super Bowl Roundtable. Congratulations on everything that happened. I have to say, I come out of CPG, right? P&G for many, many years. This was kind of the year of CPG. Here's a piece of data. 13% of the ads last year were CPG. This year, 37%. It was sort of the year of AI as well, but also the year of CPG. Well, welcome to this. I'm going to, how I'd like to run this is go to each one of you with a specific question about what you did. Because I think it was also remarkable. Sort of the theme of this roundtable is veterans and rookies. We have 2 veterans who've been here before, and we have 3 who have not. So I think the perspectives are going to be really, really fun. And I kind of want to get us started by talking to 2 of the veterans, right? Nicole at Tubi and Greg at PepsiCo. Welcome to the roundtable. And Nicole, I think we need to start with you because other than the Philadelphia Eagles, I think you may have had the best night. So and Gary, hello, welcome. Gary's just joined us.
Hi, everybody.
Good. Nicole, I mean, you streamed it for one, okay, broke all kinds of records streaming. You had custom ads for brands who advertise on your streaming platform. You had the wonderful promotion for Z Suite, which just went crazy viral, right? And then, by the way, you had the fleshy cowboy head ad. So you had a lot going on that night.
Yeah, it was hard to balance and prioritize, but
I bet.
First and foremost, having the game was just such a big opportunity for Tubi. And, that's where a lot of our pre-phase was focused on. So we didn't really even have teasers or get geared up for the brand stuff or the partner stuff because we were very focused on driving audience to the game. So it was wild to see. It's going to be hard to measure because there's so many different things that happened that day, but we're really excited because it kind of started out 2 years ago with us hacking the game, and it felt appropriate to then be streaming the game this year.
You're only an 11-year-old brand, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Is this the biggest day in the history of the brand, what we just experienced this past
Yes.
weekend?
Definitely, I think so. Because I think, we had a big Super Bowl 2 years ago, which was a huge watershed moment for the brand. But I think anytime you can get that many people on your product and, we're free streamers, so that credibility sometimes is a challenge for us. And I don't think anyone thought we had the chops to stream the Super Bowl. And we did it, and we did it flawlessly. And so I think that was a huge moment to say, like, Tubi's a real player in this space.
What are you most proud of, Nicole, and all the work that happened over the last months leading up to the day?
Yeah, I would just say I'm most proud of, like, this was, just the whole Tubi team cross-functionally working together, our product and eng teams. Like, we went through drills and cycles that gave people heart attacks because we had to be prepared for multiple different scenarios that day of, different, tech issues that could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And we are a small company. I mean, we're like barely 600 people. So I got 4 people on my social team. So it was like to do all of these things on that night and have, very, very clear communication plans and align everyone around what we're going to do in different scenarios. I'm just really proud of the team Tubi coming together and pulling it off.
Well, congrats. Hey, Gary, I want to pull you in. Gary, I was listening to our roundtable last year, or the 6th year, and I was listening to your comments about last year, and you said the overall theme, and you were there on location and doing a lot that week. Last year was happiness. Yeah. You had a tremendous sense of happiness. How would you describe the overall feeling and theme of this year?
So I was hi, everybody. It's great to see everybody on screen, a lot of my friends and people I respect. And then obviously people in the chat, please say hello. I'm interacting with them now. I like doing that thing. Jim, it's always great to be with you, brother. So this was an unusual year for me. I think every year we've done this together, I was there all the way through and for the game. Mm-hmm. This year I had the great pleasure in life of getting a text from my son right before I was about to take off to say that he wanted to watch the game with me. So I had to adjust my whole schedule and get home early Sunday. So I actually had all the business stuff. And then I actually got home and actually got to experience via Twitter, which is obviously the water cooler X for the Super Bowl in a lot of ways, and then consuming it at home and catching all the commercials in real time. This year was, I think, challenging. I think if we're going to be honest, mm-hmm. Maybe it's why you even set up the question the way you did. Like the game, I'm 49, so I grew up in the era where every Super Bowl was a blowout in the 80s and into the 90s. And so we haven't had that happen too much lately. And so the game was obviously not what, obviously a lot of people are happy if we're rooting for the Eagles, but the game itself wasn't overly compelling. Has made me really think about pricing mm-hmm. by the networks for the first quarter and second quarter versus the third and fourth quarter. I'm sure a lot of people that spent a lot of money on Super Bowl, if their spot ran late fourth quarter, like they probably have some feelings about that. I would, if. Yep. I thought, I'm very into hip hop culture. And so I knew way before the halftime show that the halftime show itself was going to probably be confusing for a lot of people mm-hmm. and remarkable for other people. I saw some guy randomly make a TikTok and compare it to Shakespeare, and I thought that was a really good analogy. Good. The people that knew really loved it. The people that didn't know it as well were definitely like, eh. And then, subjectively, and I genuinely don't think, I think many people on this call, especially the ones that work with me, know like what I think about subjective creative. Like I think it's a big vulnerability of our industry, but I'm still a human being and I'm allowed to be subjective on like what I thought. I also thought, and I actually, for me personally, my personal like taste, I think it was the order of the commercials, how they ran, like the first 4 or 5 breaks just happened to be the commercials that I, Gary Vaynerchuk, as a human, not an executive, was like less excited about than some of the mm-hmm. ones I saw later. And so, I think it was, I think it's funny what I actually, to sum that all up, I'm excited for next year's Super Bowl because I kind of feel like this year's Super Bowl is going to challenge brands to think differently a little bit for next year in a million different ways. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the support of social and activations continues to be very real, and that's been a good thing for the industry, and I expect more. But yeah, I'm reading the sentiment of humans there was a little less enthusiasm this year. And I think it was just the collective of it all, not just the spots or the game or the halftime show, but I think the collective of it all was definitely like, and there's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And by the way, the Super Bowl is a lot of fun as a marketer until the Thursday after the Super Bowl, where now it's like, well, now what? And where's the business? And like that money's now gone. And what are we going to do? And like, it gets real life real fast. And if you didn't hit, and obviously Nicole has one of the great hits,
Yeah.
a couple years ago. So that Nirvana is amazing. But when you're on the other side of that, or if it's just okay, and obviously, be interested to see what Laura says, like, because they do it a lot. Greg's done a bunch of script. Obviously, I'm aware of what Danny's world, I think, went really well. But like it's just like a fucking big bet, and big bets come with opposite reactions. But I think as a whole, Jim, I can tell you the American consumer was underwhelmed by our industry, and that's going to put pressure on our industry.
Okay. Good segue into Greg, another veteran of the Super Bowl, PepsiCo. Greg, good to see you again.
Hey, man.
I have to ask you, were you really happy to see Puppy Monkey Baby back?
I was. That's I feel I'm partially related to him, and so it was good to see my long lost nephew, or whatever you want to call him, come back a little bit. And thank you, Laura, for doing that.
Yeah, we're going to hear more about that from Laura. It was a wonderful spot, and I love that. And then you come back this year with Baja Blast and Seal as a Seal. So, Greg, we're gonna crown you king of the bazaar here on this round table.
We should get Puppy Monkey Baby and Seal as a Seal to be in the same commercial next year. That's a good idea.
Next year, okay. Yeah. We did it here. We created it here. But listen, again, a wonderful spot. Craft, insight, fun, the product integrated. So again, Pepsi does what they do well. Yeah, it was fantastic communication, but you also activate like crazy all around the Super Bowl. So you've been at this a while. You do a great job of eliciting exceptional creativity from your team inside and outside the company. So I'd like you to talk about that. You're a veteran CMO, a veteran Super Bowl person, but you do get amazing creativity. Greg, how do you do it?
Yeah, thanks for that, Jim. We had 3 spots. PepsiCo had 3 spots this year, and they were all completely different. It was really interesting. So we had a Doritos crash the Super Bowl. We brought that back, which is, I think, a really smart thing to do. And then we had a very touching spot on Lay's around potatoes. And then we had, something that was so dumb that it was good with Seal as a Seal, something you'll never unsee. But it was interesting. I'll answer your question in a second, but our CEO asked us, how did they do afterwards? And it's amazing that all 3 approaches were completely different and all had different business challenges to solve. And they all kind of did pretty well in what they were trying to do. But I love that the Super Bowl can serve different purposes for different brands, depending on what their life cycle is and what's happening in the business. And for Lay's, lots of people, this is really scary, but I think 40% of people don't know potato chips come from potatoes. They think it's this fabricated snack that is ultra processed. And there's 3 ingredients in a potato chip. There's like potatoes, and there's oil, heart healthy oil, and a little bit of salt, and that's it, right? And so with all of the stuff that's going on,
Greg? Can we get more salt? I really like salt.
There are these things called salt shakers. You can just do it after.
Thank you, sir.
But I can get into salt and potato chips for a long time. We actually reduced the salt over time by doing micro salt, which tastes the same as it, but you're getting less sodium. Anyway, so the business purpose for that one was not to, it was touching and you paid attention to it. And I thought it felt different than other ads. And I loved it. I was super proud of that ad. But compare that to the Mountain Dew ad, like they're night and day. But the business purpose of that is, hey, this is from real potatoes, and you should feel good about eating it because it supports farmers, right? completely different. On Baja Blast, we know that it's got the highest repeat of any brand that we've launched over the last 10 years, Baja Blast, Mountain Dew. And we just need to get more people to try it. And the number one thing to try it is to tell people that it's lime flavored. It's a tropical lime flavored beverage, because people didn't know what flavor Baja Blast was. So that was a barrier to trial. And so we just had to do that in an uber creative way. And so I was less worried about how much awareness either Mountain Dew has or Lay's has, and how much social chatter there was. But I was more concerned of, do people now think that Lay's are made from potatoes? And do people know that Baja Blast is lime flavored? And then, Doritos was more of a top of mind, and what a fun way for 4 or 5 months to have Doritos top of mind as people are going through this. And so all different business challenges, and, all different measures of success. And so there's not one way to rate a Super Bowl ad, as I just wanted to get that point across. And then how do I keep creativity going in the team? I think it just starts with standards and a high bar. You don't accept anything less. And I think someone asked me how many Super Bowl ads that I've been involved in. I think I just passed 25 now. And so 25 Super Bowl ads is ridiculous. That means I'm really old, right?
Got to be a record.
And so it just, it's a different bar for a Super Bowl ad. It has to cut through creatively, and you just cannot just do a hard-working ad, and it needs something special about it that is going to stop you, and you're going to have to pay attention. And usually it needs to work without sound as well. And I just think our agency partners, which are the best in the world, know that, and our teams are held accountable. And so we have different testing methodologies to do that as well. But it's just a given that the creativity has to be special. And if you have that culture and it just starts with that standard, usually it works out.
Okay, we're going to bring your friend Laura in, who's a rookie. She's going to lead off the rookie conversation here for the next 3 people. So Laura, this is your first year, wonderful spot, and you released it super early, and I watched it many, many times. You had 2 great P&G favorites in there, the Old Spice guy and Mr. Clean. So tell us year 1 overall reaction. Are you happy with it? Then the next thing I want you to talk about, how the heck did you work with all those companies to get those mascots released?
Yeah, so I am really happy with it. Honestly, I couldn't have imagined a better outcome. When we set out to do this, it was, not necessarily an easy sell, because we are a company that really values data, values results, and had to put in a lot of work on linear TV measurement to even get to a point where we could do this. And the big question was, to Greg's point, like, you can't just show up with average creative for the Super Bowl. And so we had to ask ourselves, do we think we can really make something that's Super Bowl worthy? And we decided that we had to challenge ourselves in that way. And really, when, we did release the ad early, and when we put it out, the reaction, the response was so positive. And then we were very intentional about not just having it be a spot, but really doing a massive campaign leading into the game. Mm-hmm. So we did a lot of IRL activations with our mascots. We got the Wienermobile back in the mix. We took it to the Plaza for the Today Show. We did a Jimmy Kimmel Live integration. We did a Wienermobile tour and surprise and delight deliveries with the mascots, and worked with a lot of social influencers, things like Dumois or What is New York, to just kind of have fun with this crazy idea of these mascots being stars in their own right, wandering around New York and having some fun in the world. So the reception from, the industry, from the press, from consumers on social was incredible. I was reading X, at the game, and kind of waiting for that, cavalcade of the haters. And it was overwhelmingly positive, which to me was the greatest sign that we had done something right.
Yeah, no, congratulations. It was so good on so many levels. Hey, Daniel at HexClad, I want to bring you in as another rookie to react to everything we're talking about. But listen, your company's only 9 years old. This was your first Super Bowl with unidentified flying object. It's the first time cookware's been in the big game, so a lot of firsts. So just a simple question. How did you make the most of this big milestone for this wonderful young company?
Yeah. Well, thank you. Sorry. Look who's calling me right now.
Gordon Ramsay. Well, you can bring him on the show.
He wants to know the numbers, I guess. Thanks for the introduction. By the way, I am a lowly CEO, so I stand in awe of all the hard work you great CMOs do. But we don't.
By the way, for everybody who's watching, that's what CEOs say in public forums like this, but in private, they hate CMOs.
That's why we don't have a CMO.
Thanks for that blast of reality.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. There's a lot of people watching on my channel, and I like them learning. Like, just wanted to give them a lesson real quick. Go ahead, Danny.
No, yeah. So, and actually, we don't have a CMO at HexClad right now. We kind of cobble it together between 3 or 4 people, and so I'm always learning. Like, hell, who would have known potato chips are made from potatoes? So I'm glad I joined today. This was a really terrifying experience for us. We're probably, if not the smallest, one of the smallest companies to do a Super Bowl ad. So this was a huge investment. And, and I had a couple sleepless nights to say, do I invest in this? Laura said they're small. Well, we're 235 employees. And like I said, 3 people have to split up the CMO job for us. So we needed to get every drop of press, of awareness, of brand recognition out of this moment for us, because it's, I probably, if this didn't work out, I will probably be delivering Instacart, and that's really why when we looked at it, we tried to create this ecosystem. We created our social stunt when we had the idea. It's strange that we were like, when it was first pitched, well, what if HexClad's so advanced it was created by aliens? And that fits, because I've spent so much of the last 8 years trying to explain how we came up with this. Mm-hmm. So we're like, this is a great little fun way to say how it happened. Now, it was interesting that there just happened to be several alien commercials this year. Who'd have thunk it? You
didn't have eyebrows flying around, so that's a good thing.
Danny, everybody would have thunk it. Are you watching the news?
Well, that's true. I guess because we got the idea in the summer,
of course,
before aliens invaded New Jersey, and but for us, it's still I don't think it hurt in any way. I think it resonated.
No, it helped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
it sometimes helps, people want to be original, but sometimes it actually that's a subjective human trait versus actually a reinforcement. And obviously yours was so strong. And by the way, real quick, as a Jersey boy, there's always been aliens in New Jersey.
There certainly has. So for us, we spent a lot of time creating the entire ecosystem, so to speak. And, we got Gordon to drop his photo where he's on a private plane, and we superimposed Area 51 very time, and yep. Then obviously we got Geo Rainbow to post I found you, Gordon Ramsay, and it became his most viewed video he's ever done. I think last time I checked, it was 45 million views. And her name's blanking. The flight attendant influencer, she's like, I was secretly on the plane and they didn't tell us where we're landing. And the best one was the UFO conspiracy theorist, because everybody, there are people that are writing, he's covering this. No, this really is, they're covering for the aliens that are at Area 51, not knowing that he was part of our scheme all along. But
so good.
And I think that helped in that, unlike all these great brands that are here, most people don't know who HexClad is, who are going to watch the Super Bowl. Yeah. We may be one of the largest cookware companies now in the US, but a lot of people don't know that. So we had to do something that made them go, what's different about it? And the difference was, hopefully they went away what's this technology that I need to look into? And from what we were seeing, like I was at the Super Bowl as a guest of Fox, and I'm sitting there with 3 phones. Like I have Shopify on because I want to see how many people actually stop watching the game to go. I wasn't expecting them to buy at that point, but I want to see if they're checking it out. And I'm trying to watch the ad because, unlike Greg, I'm a virgin. This was my first Super Bowl ad. And, I was building cookware sets in my backyard 8 years ago, and now we're doing Super Bowl. So,
Danny, it was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
So, hey, did you ever think about Gordon Ramsay stopping by the Ritz Salty Club and maybe having some Baja Blast at the Ritz Salty Club?
You know what? If he had been invited, Gordon loves to show up for things, so I think he would have.
So Steven at Ritz, a great Mondelez brand, your first time as well. And could you talk a bit about, what your overall reaction? I know this was sort of for you, the start of a new direction for the brand. So could you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, let me say, Gary, if you're looking for more salt, I'm more than happy to join the Salty Club. We'll make you an honorary member. So yeah, we're very happy. But I got to go back a little bit to the objective, right? What do we want to do with this? So our goal is really to have consumers reappraise this brand. Like we have amazing foundations to build on, right? It's a 90-year-old brand. For 90 years, we've been standing on the sidelines, which is too long. We're in half of American households. We're America's favorite cracker. All of that is fantastic. We're still growing as well. But we really, at the same time, need to shift the perception of the brand a little bit from this kind of tried and trusted cracker to a modern, exciting brand. And so in order to do that, we knew from day one, we're going to lean into what consumers love about the product. And what they love is, it's this buttery, flaky goodness, but it's also the fact that it's perfectly salted. That's what they play.
I'm telling you, everyone, I might start a direct-to-consumer salt brand after this meeting.
You called it, Gary. You called it. So, it really rounds out product experience. And of course, that then became the springboard for the creative as well and led to the Salty Club. But at the same time, we wanted to amp up the fun and the humor. The Ritz moment is one of celebrating and connecting and just having a good time. And we wanted our tone of voice to reflect that. And that has not always been the case in the past. But then equally important, we had to stay true to the DNA of the brand. We're about welcoming and connecting people. So that still had to be the ultimate payoff. So I think all of that, when you put it all together, you have this deliciously salted snack that brings everyone together, even the saltiest. That was our message. And I wanted to go back there before answering your question because I'm happy because we see that the message landed. Mm-hmm. And we are starting to see this reappraisal of the brand. Both in media coverage, we're really delighted. Billboard ranked us number 2 in their list. We made top 5, top 10 in some other ones. But I think more importantly, the first consumer reactions we're seeing on social, just so encouraging. I think of people also just liking the unlikely trio of salty stars that we had in the spot.
Steve, if I may, I apologize. Yeah. When will you, how are you all thinking about the business impact, right? Back to the joke earlier about CEOs, Danny is not kidding about, doing Instacart. It could be number 1, the HexClad ad, but if the business is affected, what I think is always challenge, I talk about this a lot because I'm a huge proponent of Super Bowl, but it's very high risk, high reward because of the creative variable. For you personally as a human and a marketer and operator, and then maybe even the organization as a whole, when do you start feeling the halo effects? Obviously there's shopper marketing aspects, you felt the effects before, right? The support you're going to get from your retailers, but on the consumer lens, are you giving it 30 days, 90 days, 365 days? Where are you going to try to capture, back to Nicole's point earlier, it's not like Ritz is such an iconic business and a big business. It's not like you're only doing Super Bowl and then you can just see what the impact was. You've got all these other things. What's the temperament internally on when does the business react to it?
100%. And honestly, I think there's really a short-term component to this and a long-term. And the short-term is now. So we made this huge push in mental availability, right? That has to translate to physical availability with a big display push in stores right now. So we are tracking our sales and our share week by week, as they come in. That is, the first KPI for sure. What I mentioned about changing the brand's perception is a little bit more long-term. That's going to come in with brand health tracking and things like that. we're really going to be looking at consideration, relevance, especially in the everyday moments. And with younger and multicultural cohorts, that's really important to us. But we're looking at both.
Gang, we could keep going for another hour, but we have another 5 in the waiting room coming in. So I'd like to thank you for being here. Your insights, your inspirations, awesome. Gary, could you give us one lesson you heard from these 5 as we bring the next 5 in?
Honestly, I don't know if it's a lesson, Jim, but I would say that what I appreciate about the crew, and obviously I don't think it was all captured in this time together for everyone who's watching, but I have a lot more context on some of them up close and personal because they're partners or watching from afar. I do like the practicality of the business of it all. Like, I'm obsessed that the creative is the variable of success in marketing. So obviously I'm obsessed with creative. I've always, you know me, I've been in this business now for 15 years. I'm always like, can we just like talk a little more business? So I think what I appreciated about that crew and what I'm aware of with the crew that's coming on now, I kind of like the extremes of both of the. I can sense the industry's getting like more focused on both. Creative is the variable of success, and we all have to be better at it. But like, it is getting harder. Like, it's not like we have living through like unbelievable prosperity and not change. Like, people need the business results. It's fun to see David here. Like, I'm very close with the founder of Squarespace, and I've talked a lot about my conversations with him over the last 10 years, 15 years, because if you ask him, and I'm sure David will reinforce this, Squarespace has always been really good at the thing that I most care about, which is if you ask them, how's the Super Bowl been for this company that's done it, he'll tell us 7, 8, 9 times. It's been a lot. And the answer always is some years great, some years not. And like, that's like, so I don't know, the business and the creativity excite me. So that's what I sense from the last group, and let's see what this group brings to the table.
Yeah. Well, welcome you 5. It's good to see you all smiling the week after the Super Bowl. Listen, I think the theme of this one is there's just innovation of all kinds from the 5 of you, in and around the Super Bowl. And I want to start with you, Sophia, because I think you brought us Coors Light Mondays and the sloths. And, I looked at everything you were doing before, during, after the game. I think you have one of the most comprehensive activations of any brand in the Super Bowl. So congratulations. The spot is a part of it, but actually kind of a small part of it at the end of the day. So tell us about how you led your team to have such a great activation and how it's impacted your business, to Gary's point.
Thank you. That means a lot. So look, we think of Super Bowl not just as a spot, but really as a season. So there's been a lot of people here that have been talking about just the cost behind it. So we need to make sure that we really have a strong ROI behind it. And so it did start out with the universal insight that Mondays suck, but especially after Super Bowl. And we certainly wanted, we're Coors Light, we're a brand about chill. So we wanted to bring some of that chill to the Mondays after Super Bowl. And so really, making sure that we had a real product truth there. And so for us, we've traditionally, as a marketing company, like in our brands, like we like to think beyond ads anyway, because we really believe it's so important to think about building our brands and culture. So this was certainly the case with this idea too. So, about 3 weeks before the Super Bowl, we wanted to launch the idea of having a case of the Mondays. So we had a very public blunder in places like Times Square, New York Times, Yonge and Dundas in Toronto, where we misspelled refreshment to refreshment. And people went crazy. I had people texting me. I think it was like half worry, half pity. There was a lot of critics online. And we immediately followed up with admission. Hey, we had a case of the Mondays, but we're being chill about it. And then 2 days after, we announced that we were we were basically converting our 12-pack Coors Light cases into Monday Light. And for that, it's a big deal too, because sometimes when brands do these things, it's kind of one-offs. We converted 1.8 million cases. So it had a real in-store impact. So going back to the point around the ROI. And then following up, like leading into the Super Bowl, we brought this insight around having the case of the Mondays in lots of different ways. So whether it was launching a chill roller, so to make, the Mondays a little bit more chill after the Super Bowl, we had a great teaser with Timothy Simmons. And then of course we launched our actual Super Bowl spot, which, had what I kind of believe is like the manifestation of what we all feel like on a Monday, which are sloths, with obviously the song Monday, Monday. And what we loved about the spot was that a lot of people came to us and said, like, I relate to that. That's exactly how I feel on Mondays. And then I think, my personal favorite was, I don't know if any of you saw the ad, but we actually had one of the scenes where the sloths are attempting to do a cycling class. And I'm a huge Peloton fan. I love Peloton. So suddenly having a case of the Mondays Peloton ride was a bit of a dream come true. And we saw a ton of engagement. So look, like in terms of how we measure this, like, we're thrilled with the results because one, we look at how did people engage with us? We had 12 billion earned media impressions. It's actually the highest of impressions of a campaign we've ever had in Molson Coors history. And our social engagement went up 400% versus a year ago. Going back to the practicality of it, Coors Light was the #1 displayed beer brand in the US leading up to the Super Bowl. Our displays actually grew 5%, which is a big deal in a category like this. And then, we were really proud because ultimately, like we scored well in the rankings, which is great. And, like Adweek and Ad Age, but the average everyday consumer and the people that we're really selling our beer to, they love the spot and the sentiment was really high. So going back to it, it was comprehensive. It was more than a spot. It was a campaign.
Beautifully done. Beautifully done. We're going to shift from CPG, which, by the way, had a big day at the Super Bowl, to AI. And Shahar, welcome from Meta.
Thank you.
We knew the Super Bowl would have a lot of AI in it, and it did. And I want you to talk about that. We had Google, we had OpenAI, we had GoDaddy, we had others. How do you think about standing out and talking about how you were different, which is a challenge all of us have, right? But how did you think about that as you entered the Super Bowl and the creative that you did develop and obviously amplified?
Yeah, thank you so much for having us here. Obviously, AI was going to enter the conversation on such a massive stage, and we are leading in not only AI, but in AI wearables. And so it was an opportunity to put Ray-Ban Meta glasses on the world's biggest stage and make sure that people understand how usable and how friendly and how personalized the glasses can be, depending on what use case you want to use them for. And so we featured Chris Hemsworth and Chris Pratt looking at some very obscure art, which looked like they were in an art gallery, but turns out they're actually in Kris Jenner's house. And Chris Hemsworth, eats a $6.2 million banana. And they're frantically trying to figure out how to fix this beautiful piece of art. And using the glasses, they're able to not only learn about the art, about the artists, they're able to translate art from Italian into English. And so using text translation, the AI glasses can read a menu for you or a piece of art, signage. And then, the kind of punchline is of course, that Chris calls her lawyer because they've eaten the art and they've broken the Urs Fischer. They've kind of messed up her beautiful art gallery. So, as Sophia said, it was more than just the spot. We had, a full funnel approach leading up to the Super Bowl, and that actually kicks off what is our spring summer moment for selling through a lot of glasses. And we had a ton of immediate response, both from like our immediate gross sales, but traffic, as we saw from search. And I think people joining the conversation around AI and trying to understand how relevant it is for their everyday lives, from taking a call with Gary to listening to music. The glasses kind of transform and have become a game changer that is going to eventually be the product that, feels less like a brick, but it's something that really allows you to be more present and enjoy the moment. So it was exciting to see how many brands actually were leveraging AI in this way.
Yeah. I have to get Ramon to react to this because we both spent time at P&G. You actually had a beautiful product demo. That's what it was. So you were showing how your product is different and works well. So Ramon, did you like that ad as an ex-P&Ger?
The Meta one, absolutely. It was not only engaging, but informational. And I think, it had the authenticity from a cultural standpoint on something that was big, because I think the person who bought that artwork ate the banana, I think, recently, and that was a big thing in the news. So I absolutely loved it.
Yeah. So Ramon, welcome to the conversation. This is your first time on the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And I love this. And I think I have this stat right. You began working on your plan in early January. Is that correct?
Yeah, we decided to do a Super Bowl spot 26th of December. So a few days before January.
I think Sophia started a little bit earlier than that.
I know. As she was talking, I was very jealous. Yeah, that's the way to go.
So tell us why you started when you did, and how the hell did you make it happen in that time? Because I think it was probably a fabulous idea and a fabulous execution, and I'm sure you're seeing the results that match that.
Yeah, so I think all the stars aligned. So the first thing is I was changing jobs. So I was a CMO for 5 years, and I was coming in as a president for the US. So as I was coming in with fresh eyes, I said, we need a big swing as we start. So that was the first thing. And from a brand standpoint, we have challenges where a lot of increasingly consumers think that all batteries are the same. And we need to change that. And we've invested a lot in our innovation in the last few years, but still not enough consumers know that, in fact, Duracell is built different. So this is a little bit of chance, but some of it is knowing kind of what you're going after. And how it all worked, it was very organic. I happened to get someone to introduce me to Tom Brady. And I'm like, okay, this is a great opportunity. And I thought there were ingredients that I liked, which one, there was a good brand, let's call it, link with Tom. Tom's the GOAT. Obviously, our campaigns around Duracell being built different. The second thing is, from a cultural standpoint, a lot of chatter on Tom Brady, specifically on him as a commentator. Some people like him, some people don't. And we obviously had this brand challenge. So when I spoke to him, I'm like, hey, here's the ingredients I think about. Are you in? Is this something that you're looking into or you're interested in doing? And he was all in. And with the agency, again, we worked with Gary's team. I think in a week we had a couple ideas we felt really good about, and we just made it happen. And it took a lot of courage. And that's what I tell people, like, there's a lot of internal and external pressures, right? Especially when you do this for the first time. And we're a Berkshire Hathaway company. So you can imagine when you ask me, what's your number one KPI? It's all about selling batteries and making money. So, which is the reality, right? So we had to really take a swing, take a leap, and even produce the ad before we had Fox and NFL fully approving these things. So I know someone in the last group said they couldn't sleep at night a couple nights. Well, I don't think I could sleep for 30 days. So this was
Happy New Year, right?
Yeah, Happy New Year. But it was something that, again, we're very happy with it. And again,
it should be
all the records, again, on consumer sentiment, on PR impressions, on everything. So very good.
So David at Squarespace, you're not a rookie. You've done this a lot, and you're a repeat advertiser in the Super Bowl. It must work for you in the long run because you keep coming back. But could you talk a bit about why this is such an important experience event for your brand?
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for having me here. I think, look, we measure this both in the short and the long term, but our focus is always about brand awareness here, right? We want to create something memorable that makes a lasting impression, like pre, during, and post kind of game. And look, the immediate buzz and impressions are a big part of it, massively important. And there's just a lot of earned kind of media and PR that it's very hard to generate that with anything else other than Super Bowl. There's very few events where people want to watch ads. Most people want to skip them completely, right? So I think that's like the obvious side of it. But I think for us, look, we measure it both in the short and long term, but I think it's more of like the long-term impact that we're actually looking to do here. Like for our category, our business, people are not going to start building a website the second after they see an ad, right? You need an idea, you need a business, you need a reason why to do it, right? So all we're trying to do is when you're at that moment in time, when you're all ready to do it, we want to be top of mind, right? And in order to do that, we have to cut through the noise and create something memorable that leaves an impression, right? So that could be a chuckle, it could be a tear, it could be a right? But like
it could be all of those.
It could be all of
In one
those at
spot.
the same time, right? And I think we're just trying to find a unique DNA for our brand and where we sit and where the postal code kind of is. That's differentiated, right? So I think in order to create something memorable and unique for your brand is that you have to create an honest you have to have a lot of self-awareness and create a DNA that's unique, right? So for us, it's kind of like, I always say we're like the indie film that shows up, the brave indie film that shows up to the Super Bowl to compete with the Marvel like superhero movies.
Yeah, I love
There's
that
nothing wrong
metaphor.
with that. There's really nothing wrong with that, and both of them are great. But our audience tends to veer a little bit more creative. People who care about their personal brand and want to create something differentiated. So we're very happy with that approach. We're happy that we're a little bit more A24 than Marvel. Both of them are great, but that kind of leads to us figuring out what are the pillars of our DNA and how are we going to differentiate in this sea of sameness, right? Because present company excluded because of all the great ads here. Like when, in previous years and this year, I can look at some of these ads and I see the same celebrities, same type of jokes, same cinematography, same VFX, same kind of like bigness, right? And we're just trying to do something a little bit different, whether you like it or not. We're the Kendrick Lamar of every Super Bowl, to be completely fair. When people go really loud, we tend to be quiet.
Yeah.
Right. So there's ways of standing out which are differentiated, right? And I think for us, it always comes down to a product truth. We believe a website legitimizes your business, right? And that's why we've been using this tagline, a website makes it real, for a long time. We always have offbeat humor. We like dry kind of humor. We're not slapstick. Yep. We always have unexpected talent that you're like, whoa, that's not what I was expecting, right? And it kind of led to, we like people who are timeless and have quirky charisma, like that's why we ended up with Barry Keoghan. And we want to create work that's indistinguishable from Hollywood.
Yeah, I love it.
We always have cinematic craft, which is why I always say we're a little bit Silicon Valley as a tech company. We're a little bit Madison Avenue in the sense that New York is home, and this is obviously an advertising event, but we're also a little bit of Hollywood in that regard, because we want to create branded content that competes from an entertainment standpoint.
Beautiful brand lesson, David, by the way, for anyone.
Yeah.
Speaking of doing things differently, we're going to let Brittany take us home here. Welcome, Brittany.
Thanks, Jim.
From Danone and Stok Cold Brew Coffee. You have a very different approach this year, right? You weren't on the main game. You ran advertising on streaming only. You got all sorts of earned media. You leverage your many partnerships. So what could we all learn from the approach you took, which was a bit non-traditional?
Thanks, Jim. Gosh, we're all still learning, I guess. I worked on Super Bowl ads really early in my career, really early. Started the NFL program for Skittles and all the Marshawn Lynch fund back in the day. And I was waiting for a moment more than a decade later, almost a decade and a half later, to, feel that magic again. So a little bit of Hollywood, David, a little bit of Marvel too, a little bit of all the things. Stok Cold Brew is a brand that I think I'm really so happy to be able to see grow up in a way. It started as, just 9 years ago. It's been a little bit of my baby along the way. So it's so fun to see it on a big stage like this now, second time. Last year, we ended up in the Super Bowl somewhat accidentally. We made this great ad featuring Sir Anthony Hopkins with Ryan Reynolds' agency, Maximum Effort, also featuring our partnership between Stok and Wrexham AFC. And we intended just to have it be a little social thing we did and earned. And then the ad was so good that, we were like, we need a bigger stage for this thing. So then naturally the business results were very, very positive. And so we find ourselves needing to lap an excellent Q1. How do you do that again? So, we planned for it this time. It was nice to have a little more runway. That said, you mentioned doing things a little differently. Stok Cold Brew Coffee is a brand that historically has had very, very little A&P, massive growth over the course of its 9 years, but very little money to really tell people we exist. And so to take a moment like this, where, we say we're all about making bold moves, showing up in America's biggest football stage to highlight an English football team and cold brew coffee, not even sold in Wales. Like, those are pretty bold move, certainly. But the price tag on a linear spot is very big, as most of us here know. So, we took an approach to, instead of doing a linear ad, we purchased a streaming only ad. So I was very excited to hear from Tubi today. I was out here telling everybody Tubi is the only way this year you can see all the ads in the Super Bowl. So, we were excited to be able to partner through the streaming service only. So Fox and NFL and certainly Tubi streamed our ad, and it's a lower price tag for sure, but it also allows you to reach a younger consumer. I saw some stats from Roku actually that it was this year streaming actually trumped the linear views of the Super Bowl. So incredible to see that we're able to reach younger consumers. We're able to reach a pretty big audience through a streaming buy. I suspect more advertisers may learn that cheat code, especially right now since I'm just telling everyone about it. But it was cool to be able to see, as you said, all that earned pickup ahead of the game. We're still seeing it now. Channing Tatum in all his glory. I think the world needs some joy right now, and that's certainly what we wanted to put into the ad. The players getting the opportunity, they're on the documentary and becoming more and more famous in their own right, but the opportunity to show up on an American stage like this for players that never would have thought that would have happened to them. Dancing, that's not something they're, very professional at, but they did an amazing job, and Channing was just the perfect person
pure
to
joy.
work with. Celebration dances, who doesn't love that? So
It was pure joy.
Big year for Stok, and an amazing milestone for us as a brand.
Well, I said the theme of this 5 was innovation, and we certainly heard that. So Gary, why don't you bring us home?
Yeah, I mean, I just think even if you think about all of them, I think what stands out to me is that we're finally in 360 land. Like, knowing a lot of this work, I very much pay attention to social surround sound, and Coors deserves a lot of credit. I fully agree with you. 360 was really strong, and obviously I'm close to some of the work because some of the partners are here. And just in general, I think I'm optimistic for 2026, Jim. I think we'll see some people take some real risks, because I feel like this year was less risky, just a hair. And I think I'll leave it with this. I still think people need to do more performance, like business outcome stuff. I'm still, it's funny when Greg was saying we wanted people to know that it was lime flavor. I'm still waiting for the literal ad. I literally want someone to run a 30-second ad and being like, hey, Baja's lime flavor, and just go lime flavor, lime flavor, lime flavor. Like I actually think someone can really win the Super Bowl with that move. So I'm excited about that, and I'm excited about the continuation. I think activations, live events is becoming, especially when they're a production day for creative. I saw a lot of our partners here, like Meta did a great job. I mean, for the first time in 6 years, I haven't been in Michael Rubin's suite, and sure enough, they activated there, and I could have gotten some free glasses. So, I think that the 360 of it all is exciting to me, and it's fun. Squarespace, back to awareness. Obviously, I was at a big Knicks game last night. They were a sponsor of the patch for a while. I think like more integration, and a little more risk. I'm hoping for next year, but. Thanks for having me. I know everyone's running late. I got to run too. So
yeah. Okay. Thanks, gang, for the inspiration. Wonderful. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.